might get that on film.
Red is...
Are we good? All right. I call to order this meeting on Thursday, June 13th of the Master Plan Implementation Committee. Our first order of business is the adoption of the agenda. The agenda is fairly straightforward. It's continuing along on review. Does anyone have any modifications or discussions to the agenda?
Did we want to talk about summer meetings and going to one in July and August, perhaps?
That would be during the setting meeting time.
Oh, okay.
Part 9.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to adopt the meetings as agenda as...
All right. Is there a second?
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All against? And so the agenda is approved. And the minutes, again, I thought you did an excellent job. Has everyone had a chance to review them?
Yes.
And do we have a motion to approve them? Or
There's
any
only one quick modification.
Sure.
Is Jessica wasn't here. So it says also present Jessica Allen, which probably
Okay.
it's the only thing I see.
So you want to revise that motion to approve with the modification that Jess is stricken from the also present column.
I so move.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
All against? All right. And now we move. We have our old business items as usual, which we've been skipping through. Where are we with the Transportation Committee? We are getting close to the time, I think, where we're supposed to take action.
Yeah, July.
Was this discussed at the last meeting?
Well, it was discussed in that, I think we just reviewed that, I think Jess had said that in July there would be a report, which I think would inform the conversation around what our next steps would be. I think we agreed that we couldn't make a decision before we know what the contents of the report is. So I don't think in July there's necessarily going to be like a convening, but I think in July we committed to getting an update on what the report was and then taking action.
Moving forward from there.
Yeah.
Is everyone good with that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so with regard to the Energy Commission, I found no one to recommend. Jess isn't here, so I recommend we pass through it unless someone has anything to add on that. Okay. Cover to cover chapter review. We've been working here, I saw from the minutes, and got through to item 19. You know what page?
There are 19 items.
Yeah, I think we completed historic.
Yeah,
Historic is done.
yes.
What page is that?
123. And I could offer, in the way of clarification, some comment on 18 and 19, for example. Reconstruct the covered bridge over the Manhandle River.
That would be good.
Yeah, I think that's an example of where, based on the instructions we had from the PDPC, we ended up making some statements like that that were meant to include consideration. But I think this is a good example of where if we take the Master Plan Implementation Committee's mission as being implementing each of these, we might run into the issue, as would be obvious with this example, that some of these things were not conclusions, but recommendations to consider. Or, for the sake of historical perspective, that the idea being made part of the record that the trolley cars, for example, were something that everybody approved of, and that is exactly why I had brought up the cable car thing, was as something that was hopefully intended to have that same effect, but it isn't bring back the trolley cars, which when I spoke to Stuart, you know, that was never considered a realistic option.
Cool. Okay.
So those two things, for example, I don't think that they're really meant to be implemented, is I guess what I'm saying. And that's from my take as one of the people that helped develop the list. Although,
We're talking 18 and 19, and here we listed them as no progress, which is
yeah,
appropriate, I think, to what you're saying.
yeah, and that's where, I guess, did we resolve ever the question of some of these might not get implemented, and what's the procedure in that case? Is there an official Xing out, or do we leave them perpetually in a state of no progress? What do we do?
Well, I mean, our assessment goals here are really just to figure out where it is, and then have a meeting to try and, with the general public, figure out where we're going. I think it's great to have notes for where we want to go, or where we see there's opportunities to push forward. I'm not sure, you know, there've been some cases where, especially with Jessica, she just said flat out, you know, that's not going to happen.
Right.
I'm not sure that's the case here, because someone could have a very strong opinion in the public that they want to push the trolleys, and they could be rich, and they could push the trolleys forward. I know.
We'd love it.
All that's possible.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
And
Covered bridge.
Yeah, covering that bridge would be...
I guess I would just want to maybe understand a little bit more then about the goal or the objective of the group in kind of flagging them or putting them there for the record. Is that there was, like, in an ideal world with no consideration around resources or reality, these, well, you know what I mean? Like, is it just a flag, like a placeholder, meant to be like a placeholder for there's interest in this if there was just limitless money and...
Well, what happened was, these two examples, they came up in conversation of some of what we're calling historical resources. The Manhan Bridge is still there, it's not covered,
Right.
and the trolley paths and I guess the idea of that as mass transit still exist, but in terms of physically reconstructing them, it's like the canal. We devised that the best reconstruction of the canal was as a park. And there's a great example down in, I'm going to forget the name now, I'll have to look it up, but the canal map came from, I forget what town in Connecticut, but they have a great little, it's a little park basically around a...
I think that's,
Yeah, it's right on the tip of my tongue.
yeah, Farmington maybe? Farmington? Or Avon, somewhere around that area?
It might be around that area, but I don't think either of those is the one.
Canton.
I can find out. It's not coming to me. But so they rebuilt just a one block section as part of the park. And there's like a marker and a little bit of the history, and there's a nearby, their historical society is nearby and includes some information so that you could walk out to the park and back into the building and get this relationship of the history. So bottom line is, I think 18 and 19 were the kind of thing that had gotten thrown in the mix early on, and when we were in the stage that, you know, pie's the sky, there's no wrong thing to put on the table. But then, because people liked the ideas as an ideal, they made it all the way through the vetting process. But I do think it would be a question that we should have, is there a category of
Improbable.
improbable, yeah.
Is it appropriate for us to say, like, well, maybe not recovering the bridge at the Manhan River, but having a covered pedestrian bridge next to it? Is that something that, you know, it's up to us, or?
I think the intention, like if we had a covered pedestrian bridge and then maybe, let's say, those little placards at the entrance or along the inside
Or
of that.
inside where you can look at the fish ladder and read the history of the bridge.
See, that would
something
be,
like that.
I think, very much in tune with what the
Yeah.
intention of this had been.
And I think that discussion and pushing that forward would be part of that process.
Yeah.
So I think that counts. Okay. Let me ask you a question in a larger scope, because you all went through and completed that historic chapter, and I know we went through housing and economic development. There are some other chapters in there: recreation, cultural. I don't remember covering those. Did we skip one, or am I just not remembering correctly?
We have not.
We have not. And what about open space, natural resources? Is that also one?
Jess suggested that we hold off on that because they were just completing the survey.
Oh, that's
and
right.
they just had that, they're writing up the open space.
So it would be then that jumping back to recreation would probably be the next chapter, if we were sort of following the book in order. Unless you all want to jump to something fun. I mean, honestly, the order in which we get them done probably doesn't matter so much as long as we get them all done.
Yeah, I think,
So unless someone has a suggestion, I would go to recreation next. Is that
I thought that there was, the ones that we skipped over, I thought that there was like a compelling
a
reason.
reason? Yeah.
But I remember the one about open space, but I don't remember recreation, why we skipped over.
Didn't we do culture when Denise was
Yes,
here?
we did.
Oh, that's right, we did culture, I remember with Denise. Okay, so it's open space and recreation. We know we skipped open space. I think the reason we skipped to culture was because we had Denise, actually.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
Oh, okay.
Just thank you for reminding me. So that would put recreation next on the list, on page 99.
So we're all done talking about history then. John, was there anything else you wanted to add? That was only because you weren't here.
Yeah, I guess I'm interested to know, it is really ironic that this is the section I missed. You know what?
Yeah, I feel like the only other one that we had like a lot of discussion was the idea of this oral history records program, which was the number one, but it also fed into some other things that were like the education piece, like it felt like it could fit into a number of places. And we didn't really know, especially with that oral history program, if anything had been started.
Which number was that?
The first one was create an oral history records program that allows to capture oral histories, but it seemed like that tied into like ECAT and the education thing, like there were so many ways it could come together.
Yeah, there had been some proposals about what form that might take. And I had spoken with the then director of the Emily Williston Library, and there'd been a lot of support from the library, from ECAT, and from the senior center on implementing something to collect that. But then I guess my take on where it was left was, well, the town would need to put some sort of resources behind mostly the manpower hours that would go into either organizing something like a TV show where people come or call in and talk about history, or one of the things I had said that is one of the cheapest things you could do is set up a 1-800 kind of number with voicemail and encourage people through an ad campaign to call in and leave their stories. It's a lot less personal, but it's the cheapest, easiest way you can get started and capture something from, if I might be frank, people who suddenly disappear without warning and take their history and stories with them. So I had suggested that that's only part of it, not all of it. You wouldn't stop with that. You'd hopefully do that, the ECAT kind of things, whole documentaries, but then something on the line or level of a documentary certainly requires a lot of money and time and resources.
I love the ECAT idea. I think that would be a great show. Are there any other points in here that you wanna hit on? I know your expertise was desired at that.
Well, and obviously Michael too, but I mean, being as I participated in the making of a lot of them, I can sample the Pedestrian Bridge as kind of an interesting alternate to the bring back the trolleys and the covered bridge kind of thing. Is we really did think that could happen, and there was a lot of support for it happening, not only to bring back something that's sort of a historical monument, but that it would tie in with recreation and pedestrian throughways. That if you did it smartly, it did all of those things. It was one more way to interconnect, the new city there with the mill area, and to create a recreational, like fishing pier kind of thing, and have placards that tell you the history, that this is how the mill workers got to work, that kind of thing. It was kind of a, win-win-win-win sort of thing, even though one might think, oh, that's right there with bring back the covered bridge, totally unrealistic and unimplementable, but not so.
smaller project.
Yeah, I think it's doable.
A lot of people did. A lot of people that we talked to about it said, yeah, that could be done. Yeah, it's the kind of thing that might be a grant or something.
Having gone through this, then, would you say that you agree with the assessments the group came up with?
I do. I was curious about the blanks and wondered, on the one that says refer to me, what the best way to proceed on that was.
Number one, you mean?
Yeah.
I feel like that goes under that, we keep talking about it needs some leadership, like it just needs to be put with somebody.
I took up the website as an example, just for the record, historiceasthampton.com. Hasn't been updated in a while because I've had other distractions, but also I foot the bill every year for the site and the domain name and the .org version as well, and it's something that I had always anticipated would get resolved because, it can't go on indefinitely under my personal, one day that will end is I guess one way to put it.
I'd be happy to host it for free.
Yeah, that would be great. Then we could just move it over then.
Hey, that's something that
Some
we
progress, change it. We just did it.
That's the hosting of the website. The URL renewal is still an issue. And
Right.
You need to find a budget and stuff for that.
Yeah, and
That's
it's
some
Did you put a donation thing on?
yeah, it's like $15. No, I didn't. Although that's a good idea. Donate to keep the website running.
Yeah.
It's a great idea. I didn't think of that.
leadership right here at the
Making it happen.
Okay. Well, I suppose that we're a wrap with that and should move on to the next section. Again, the next section being recreation, and that's page...
99?
No, 99, yep, 99.
That's the end of the chapters before.
And we've got 22 fine items here. Number one. Actually, before I start into this, I just want to ask the group, was anyone here involved in this chapter of the master plan implementation?
I was.
Okay. Great.
It was one big group. It was a funny group
Yes.
because it actually was a
Yeah.
whole bunch
Yeah,
of these
there were.
things.
Yeah.
Like historic and recreation and open spaces were all part of the same group. Yeah.
Well, that's good news for us. It always helps to have someone who is involved. Maintain, including addressing root problem, and extend Manhan Rail Trail. Well, I'd say that's been done. Probably still ongoing, but
The maintenance is always being
yeah,
done.
it's going to be ongoing.
The extension is done to Coleman Road, so
I know they're planning some more extension stuff. They were talking about connecting to White Brook and having other little,
Right.
branches come out. I definitely think ongoing is a good word, but it almost feels to me that it needs more because I feel like the bulk's really been done. So I guess we'll live with ongoing. Link remaining open space areas of Cernak property to trail systems to Nonotuck Park.
Don't know any progress.
I don't know anything about that. So I hesitate to say no progress. I mean, it's probable there's no progress, but there could be there's some discussion. I just don't know. So the question is, who would we talk to?
property to trail.
That could be the Cernak people, or it could be part of the rail trail.
Whatever.
Is that really part of the rail trail?
Not sure.
I don't think it. Yeah, I don't think it's part of the rail trail. The idea, like number 3, is connect the rail trail and Nonotuck. And then if you connect
Yeah.
Nonotuck and Cernak, then by virtue of that, you've connected all 3.
So really, that's talk with the Cernaks.
Sounds like it.
Okay. So we'll say that with Cernaks, something like that. And then the connecting the Nonotuck Park to the rail trail, I've also heard nothing. Anyone?
That's a Rec Department.
Yeah, vet, rail trail in Nonotuck Park, or Parks and Rec, rather.
If they even know about it.
It's interesting. The next one I know quite a lot about. I think we already reported on this in earlier meetings, so that is and I don't want to say no progress, planning stage. They've talked about it, basically, and they're looking for funding. It's all about funding right now, and that's going to come out hopefully soon. Number 5. We're going too fast for that.
Yes.
I started number 5, and that's pretty much in the stage that I made an overlay, I guess is how I would call it, for the existing trails and conservation trail paths. And that's pretty much where it stands. It's like a Photoshop layer with each of the areas.
I'll read it out so the viewers can...
Oh, yes, sorry.
That's all right. Create recreation and conservation trails map to inform residents and visitors of available opportunities. Post on city website. So you've got an overlay.
I have an overlay. It just basically needs to be added somewhere. Is there a town map that's like that?
I don't know, I would talk to Barry or Jamie and have them put that up. So I would say that something like this sounds like, I mean, if yours is the official one that's going to be used,
Which doesn't have to
that is
be.
planning stage right now.
Yeah.
We've got, there's a plan to use something. But it would seem to me that that's an easy thing to do. I mean,
Yeah.
that could be right off the list.
Yeah.
So, do you think that's something you'd be willing to contact Jamie or Barry about?
Yeah.
They would either put it up themselves or contact me, and I would put it up, so either way. Anything else there? Okay. Number 6. Ensure that Nonotuck Park Management Plan includes provisions for protecting natural, sensitive areas. I feel like I'm doing a deodorant commercial. All right. I don't know what they're doing for protecting areas. I heard recently that there was some talk about redoing some roads and trails and opening space up a bit more in Nonotuck Park.
You mean, what do you mean by opening space?
I thought they were talking about expanding trails or clearing trails that had closed or something. This was hearsay that I heard this. It was my wife. She read it somewhere. So, has no one else heard this? Hopefully I'm not.
I haven't heard anything.
Well, something's going on with Nonotuck, but I have no idea if it's about protecting. So what we need to do is vet Parks and Rec.
Park and Rec, Piscomic Conservation Trust is also listed here.
Okay, Piscomic as well. So vet Parks and Rec and Piscomic. Any other commentary there? Okay. Number 7, connect Mount Tom along Hendrick Street to Nonotuck Park. It crosses the road, so what is that, like a walkway or something? A stop sign with a heavy crosswalk or a bridge?
What does this connect Mount Tom along Hendrick Street to Nonotuck Park?
To Nonotuck Park, yeah. I know you can go the back way. That's the back way in Nonotuck Park. We sometimes take our kids for soccer. I'm going to guess that there's no progress on this. Again, this is going to have to be Parks and Rec, vet Parks and Rec. There's a lot of that going on here. And Jess is going to hate it.
Well, maybe we bring them in
And
with the transportation too, because these are kind of transportation issues as well, right?
I think so, yeah. It looks like at the rate we're going, we'll be able to blast through this list, isolate the things that are vet with them, and then next meeting, I'll take the responsibility of seeing if I can't get someone from that committee to come in. All right, number 8.
I'm just wondering what they're, besides connecting Mount Tom to Nonotuck Park, it says that acquisition funds, they're looking to buy property?
They must be. Oh, so it says in order to do that, they're probably going to have to go through lands that are currently privately held, huh?
Yeah, possibly.
That sounds like a project. Okay. Where was I? Expand adult fitness and leisure programs. I'm unaware of any. Anyone here?
Like city run, kind of.
I would think so, yeah. Or at least some sort of subsidy or sponsorship to groups that are doing it in the area. I don't.
There's the adult basketball league, there's adult basketball, there's adult baseball, yeah.
So some progress.
But expand implies that whatever is currently there should be,
Beefed up.
yeah.
And this primarily would deal with the seniors, but there's now gym equipment at the senior center, so, yeah,
Okay. Excellent.
This is probably ongoing because,
yeah.
I mean, the parks give permission for, softball
Yeah.
leagues and,
Okay. So, ongoing then.
I might guess that expanding that would maybe mean more of an ad campaign type thing too, to encourage people to take up the gauntlet, take up the,
Join the leagues.
or create a league.
Right.
Right.
I mean, I guess it'd be up to like Parks and Rec to actually come up with a program and say, is anybody interested in doing this, besides,
Staff,
is it, no? Yeah.
besides the staff of Parks and Rec.
Right.
Okay. So definitely more than I originally thought there. Ongoing. All right. Number 9, add lighted softball field to Daily Field. It's a great idea. I don't know anything about it, so I'm gonna guess. Who has Daily Field? Is that part of Nantucket, right?
Well, yeah, sort of. I'm wondering if that is possible just because of the configuration with the hardball diamond and the softball. May not be.
Space for it.
Yeah, they kind of may overlap, so if you put lights out in the outfield, it might interfere with the hardball diamond.
Okay. So
So it may not be possible.
Daily is Nantucket property, though, right?
Daily field?
Daily.
Yeah, I would say it's.
Or is it Williston property?
I feel like it's
Well, the other
Williston.
field is town property.
Is that Williston?
I think it's Williston.
So then it's gonna have to be Vet Williston.
Well, I don't think it's Williston, it's just, the other field is the upper field as you go into the park.
Right.
it's city owned.
Yeah,
It is city.
Is it
I'm
city?
assuming it's city owned.
yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, because it's locked by, not Williston, but
Right, so, yeah. It's a city.
Easthampton, right?
And your Park and Rec is right there.
Right.
all right, so then Vet Park and Rec. Yeah, I didn't know either, because it's sort of close, you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
Williston is everything on the other side of the road,
Okay.
and up the hill.
And then number 10, connect Manhan Rail Trail to schools. I know this is in progress. This is one of the big agendas that they're looking at on the rail trail.
So this be planning?
I would say in progress. But it could be planning to, or both work. Shoot. I have no strong feeling either way, if anyone here does.
Connecting to the schools?
Yeah. I know it's something they're discussing.
Not a bad idea.
Which one did you choose?
I use both.
Number 11, identify and acquire lands adjacent to Nantucket Park having potential recreational value.
Is that,
What lands would those be?
Yeah, I guess they have to be identified. Identifying them as part of the process.
Oh, okay.
Is that maybe with Jessica, weren't they just doing that land, they were doing a map of, it was related to housing, but I think they were looking around town at
What lands might be
what
available.
lands might be available or targeting.
I would say that this sounds like it is Vet Jessica and Vet Parks and Rec. We're gonna have a long list of questions that need to be put out at the end of this. All right, Number 12, maintain clay tennis courts. I feel really strongly about this. I love those clay courts. They are an Easthampton treasure, and they are in utter disarray. Although I feel like they've done a little bit better since they got rid of one and kept the other two. Come on, who doesn't play tennis, really?
I know.
I know, but
Those are the ones right next to Mount Upton.
Yeah, clay courts are hard to find. They're really amazing.
I didn't realize they were clay.
Yeah, they're fantastic. But they're in such disarray that, I mean, that's the beauty, is that people just walk by, so they're rarely used. And with clay, it's a bit more of an ordeal. With a regular court, when you play, you're done. But with clay, you have to maintain it, and so it's a different experience. I know that they've made some changes recently, and they seem a little better, but I really don't know much more than that, so it's got to be some progress in vet Parks and Rec, right? Does anyone else know anything about it? Really no tennis players at home?
I really like your enthusiasm though.
Come on, tennis, love tennis. Okay. Number 13, create an indoor children's recreational programs and facilities.
That would be awesome. Like a space, like create a new space for recreation to happen for kids. I guess I'm not understanding.
I'm having trouble too. Immediately I started to think about when they do the softball practice at the beginning of the year, they go to Williston there, and they've got that indoor space where they all try out and practice, and they do it for soccer. There's also the pool that's currently down at White Brook, which is an indoor activity, but that needs help.
And like for some of the younger kids, there are the play groups at Flywheel now.
Oh, great.
So that's.
I'm not sure that this is all organized, that there's any one entity that sort of, as you said, take up the gauntlet on that. It could be anybody, it could be a business.
Yeah. I think it's, I don't know, I think it would have a lot of.
How do you want to rate this one?
Some progress needs leadership.
Sold.
That's my favorite
Yes.
description.
She sold me on it.
I'd say that's about right, because we can pinpoint a few things that have occurred. Okay. Any more comments anyone wants to make on that? All right. I'll make one comment. I know that we have next to the old town hall that daycare center there.
Young World.
And I personally think that place is fantastic, and the leader of that program, I can't believe I can't remember her name, because she's a wonderful woman. She's having influence on my life. I'm so sorry.
Holly.
Thank you. She seems to me like someone who might be an advocate of something like this, and someone who might be able to pick up a torch and run with it. I just tossed that out there for the record. Okay.
Polly, if you're watching.
It's
like subliminal.
You're going to try to encompass
We
the
should.
whole town. You're talking, maybe churches, when they do their summer programs, you do.
Right. The local, the various groups, the Girl Scouts,
Boy Scouts,
yeah.
Allison has a really great idea.
Oh, I'm sorry, did I talk over
Actually,
you?
no, well, we were just saying, I was just making a joke, like, if someone's watching and they have input on this, they could call the master plan hotline. But actually, it's not a bad idea, similar to what John was saying, like, if you have thoughts on this, why don't you call and leave us a message and come, or, what's an easy way? Maybe it would be like a website.
Well, if you were to call 413-529-1406, you would get City Planner Jessica Allen, who has a direct contact to us. Again, that number is 413-529-1406.
Donate to that.
Okay, good, great point. And I think because you typically sit over there on that side, what we need to do is get something for your
Down in my back, yeah.
Slim t-shirt, maybe.
All right, moving forward. Number 14, make conservation properties more accessible to the public where appropriate. Well, I know about the one next to my house. I love it. It's got public access over on East Street. Brickyard Brook. Anyone know of any others besides Donald Tuck?
Yeah, the
On Hendrick
other
Street.
one down on East Street, farther down towards Mount Tom,
Oh, which one is that?
where the monument is.
Oh, yes, I know.
I'm trying to think of what the name
It's the
is.
Pascomic.
Yeah, it's got a-
Yeah,
But it's got a name too.
yeah.
I go by it every day, and I don't remember.
And I know that the Brickyard Brook too, I just heard they expanded, they bought some new territory, and they've got some new trails in there too, which is awesome. But this says more accessible to the public.
Like labeling and stuff? Signage?
Yeah.
Because I don't
James.
even know about the one that you're mentioning near your house.
Oh, it's awesome, you gotta come check it out.
Is it labeled? Like, or is it kind of like discreetly tucked?
Totally discreet.
I think that sign's pretty big
Oh, okay.
on East Street. I mean, you have to know it's there.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you, if you look, it's big, but
Once you see
But
it.
the property on Hendrick Street has a huge sign on front of it.
Then maybe that's enough. Maybe I'm just the blind.
You know, you time in with the map. That was, I think, the idea of the map overlay, and give somebody the opportunity to know, oh, whoa, wait, there's something over near White Brook, or hey, hold it, what's this lead mine trail?
Yep.
Then they would have the opportunity to then narrow it down to the point where hopefully the brown and yellow marker would be enough to say, there's the trailhead.
Yep.
so, and then more accessible might also be,
Handicapped.
yeah, that was one thing that occurred to me,
Yeah.
exactly.
Handicapped accessible and having more parking in the area for people to get out and do the trails,
And I don't think there's a whole lot of that, because it's just the side of East Street, right?
Yeah.
And
So,
it's site dependent, because you
Yes.
can't do that with everything that's a nature trail.
so why don't we go with some progress?
Yeah. Because they're going to be doing all the work on the Pomeroy Meadow property, that the trails over there, adding trails.
I haven't heard about that.
Oh, yeah.
That sounds
That's
cool.
new.
Awesome. Who's doing that?
The Pascomic Trust is spearheading it. They have, I can't remember the name of the group, but there is a group that is going to come in and build the trails for them.
Awesome.
Because like there's going to be a staircase or two, and
It's my favorite kind of thing. Great. All right then. Number 15. Develop cultural and historical programs in the city's recreational facilities, parks, and trails by holding a forum with members of the Cultural Council, Historical Commission, local dance schools, and arts groups, etc. Cultural and historical programs.
Well, there was, I mean, you had, Bob Schwob up at Mount Tom, you know, I think that was an example. I know he's stopped doing that due to health, but that was an example, I think, of,
I have no clue.
yeah,
what
if you
that
would
is.
go up on, you know, a given Saturday up to the little hut at Mount Tom, you'd likely find 2 or 3 old timers in there, happy to give you historical perspective and stories of the history of the area. And that was on a volunteer basis, and I don't know if there was any formal leadership or not. Do
Are you talking about the entry hut right into the park?
No, the
The
ranger
Go way-
station.
go
yeah.
way up.
Okay, yeah.
I never go that way because I can walk from my house up the trailhead there
Yeah.
off East Street, so it's at the top of that when I get to that. But
What other ideas do we have for developing cultural and historical programs in the city's recreational facilities, parks and trails?
I'm trying to.
So that's like
So-
signs that tell the history of the trail and different locations of note.
another existing example is the picture of the train there where
At the rail station.
on the rail station, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So that's an integration of, it's a recreational path, but it's got a historical element.
This seems to me to be, well, it says cultural and historical, but it really seems to me to be a historical something a historical committee would spearhead and then work with places like Parks and Rec or the Manhattan Rail Trail or different locations like that to make happen.
Sure.
Does that seem about right to everyone else, or who else would you see sort of spearheading something like this?
Maybe artists, who might do some kind of, I feel like there could be leadership in the cultural side and the...
Because it says hold a forum. Who would be the moderator? I mean, if we were to try and identify one group to...
loses me. I don't know what the purpose of the forum would be.
I think we would be the moderators and we'd be inviting everybody to have,
And hope that someone rears up
That's to
and...
generate,
Well,
the forum is to generate
I think to generate the
ideas.
ideas and then get them out into the world, generate the ideas and these groups would take them and run. Hopefully.
Like dance in the park? I mean, is that what they're
I feel like-
getting at?
I think so. I think it's really like a gathering in the park where we learn about, I don't know.
My instinct, I feel like some little things can be claimed to be relevant to this, but really, as an organizer, for no progress, and it does need to be brought up as a forum, talked about, and have a fire lit under it.
This also goes to, didn't we just talk about this with the historical chapter? There were like create a historical event. This feels a lot like that. And
Yeah, there's some overlap, I think.
The way I would imagine it happening is you'd have a historical entity group that would probably come up with elements that could be tied into the recreational part. So for example, I think that thing on the trail stemmed from an old photograph that was generated by a member of the historical
Are
community.
you talking, excuse me, like something like bringing in the heritage baseball teams and playing like an old-time game, like an 1860s
That's a great
baseball.
idea.
That's a great idea. I was thinking I was talking about more, I'm guessing that the organization, the entity that would probably facilitate it
Would be the historical.
would be like or a new group created from that for the purpose of finding ways to integrate town history into these other things, be it the historical ball game. I think we talked, didn't we, once about the bicycle races, the historical bike races. There's those events that could happen, but I would guess that there need to be some sort of entity.
I feel the same way.
And they might approach the cultural council and say, hey, we've got an idea for you. Can you work with artists to come up with a, mural or whatever, right? But I would guess there would need to be...
Because if we had the forum and did it, which I think is a great idea, but if we did it and got all these ideas, we
They can
run
also,
anything with
the
it.
cultural council can also provide funding for that. They can make that a call for entry, a call for proposals. Here's the idea, we have funding available, here's a theme, go with it.
I think that's a great point, because it clearly upfront cultural and historical. Now, I did zero in on historical, but it really could be either.
Yeah.
I think that one needs no progress.
Needs leadership.
Yeah.
Your favorite one.
Sorry.
Number 16. Create consistent signage for all recreation and conservation areas. Consistent. Same look and feel, Easthampton logo, that sort of thing.
Who puts up those signs?
DPW, I'm guessing.
Let's see, where is
Well, clearly they're putting up signage. I have no idea if it's consistent.
that's down the Manhattan Rail Committee we got on here.
My guess is that it's not consistent. Is it something like Brickyard Brook? They get a bunch of donors, whatever, that are putting this there, a budget. They go to DPW and say, we need a sign in this form. Probably pay a fee, and a sign goes up according to their design with some city specs on top. Is that about right? I mean,
That's good. Who knows? I don't think there's really anything.
It sounds about right, because, here it's Parks and Rec, Pasconomic Conservation Trust, Manhattan Rail Trail Committee, grant money and volunteer time, so it does, it sounds...
so that means they're getting signs, but this wants consistent signage, so,
All the signs look alike, basically, is what you're saying.
yeah.
So the city decides what the look is, and then if
So
you
there's
wanna
no-
volunteer to buy a sign, you buy it with this look.
No progress on this, nothing has been done.
Well, I think there was a lot of traction around signage for other areas of the city, so
Yeah,
I
has
feel
this
like,
fallen under that or not?
why can't we just
Not
broaden
positive.
that
Years of
signage?
battle. Yeah.
I mean, if there's signage movement,
It's even I'm thinking in my head, it's even possible that they covered this because they covered so much when they went through that process. It's possible that, they have regulations regarding that signage, but does it really cover this sort of desire to have it be consistent, which is really more of a thematic thing?
Well, so every time you see brown and yellow, nature trail, or
Yes.
What's it?
blue and white means
Yes.
culture, or something like that,
I
yeah.
doubt very much they covered that. I could be
Yeah.
wrong.
So maybe we should check with who does the signage people?
Is that city council?
Building inspector?
I think,
Was he the,
yeah.
he's the enforcement?
He's the enforcement of it, yeah.
So,
He should know.
And probably Jessica, because I know she has that.
Yeah, she doesn't actually know, so
Is that on camera? All right, so you don't want to go with no progress. Let's vet then. Vet with city officials.
Okay.
I'm not sure who to bring that to.
I'd go building inspector, Jessica, and maybe
Yeah.
city council as a idea, as a question.
Okay. All right.
Planning.
Number 17. Seek public/private partnerships for new indoor and outdoor recreational opportunities and programs, such as racquetball and tennis. Public-private partnerships.
Gyms and, we need more venues, really.
So this would be Economic Development Council, this would be maybe Local Works could do something like that. That would be creating great events. I don't know of any, the public-private partnerships I know right now are like teams putting their names on shirts for the different kids leagues and stuff. They're donating. I mean, so it exists in some concept. I don't know of any other. Does anyone else? So
No, there's no, any kind of clubs or gyms are all mostly just like weights and that kind of stuff. They used to be, Hackers used to have racquetball,
yeah,
but they, it's daycare now, so.
yeah. So I'm almost gonna say, because it's so common in every community to have the T-shirt thing with the leagues, that I wouldn't even count that in this, and I would say no progress.
takes leadership.
There you go.
Well, it needs investment.
Yeah.
You can attract somebody to come in and build indoor tennis courts in town.
An exercise club would be great, something for
A
that.
racket club type thing, yeah.
Create a dog park, number 18.
I don't think we have one. Anybody here have dogs?
Yep, there isn't a dog.
I am just keeping to myself on this one. I am a cat person.
Okay, let's create a cat park.
I'm all for it.
I think there's a lot of, I think there's probably a lot of people pro and against, and even within dog lovers, I think there's probably people against.
Well, there's probably a liability issue.
In general, just overall, I'm always in favor of parks and nice places for people. So, I just instinctively love a concept like this. But where's the funding going to come from? What, who's motivating? As far as I know, there's no progress.
Yeah.
It needs leadership.
Northampton uses the old state hospital property. It's huge.
It's not
big.
formal.
It's not a formal dog
Dog
park, but you say dog park,
But it
people know
is.
where to go.
And because there's that right there, I don't think that we're gonna, I think what they mean is create a caged-in area where people can let their dogs run around. That's what I think is meant. I don't think they mean like devote a portion of Nonatuck Park to like green
Dog
dog.
friendly and,
I
okay.
mean, people could mean that, but I think that would be a little unrealistic.
No progress.
I mean, most big cities, that's what a dog park is.
Right, this is a
Fenced in
area
area.
where,
Yeah.
There's a great Portlandia episode of the dog park. Look it up online.
I find it interesting, all the different reactions I've seen around the table for this one. This is,
I'm just thinking of my garden, whatever keeps them out of my garden. I support.
yeah, I spent a lot of time on the front lawn by the road, because where we live is kind of away from the street, and I consider it sort of a dog park. So,
your front yard.
yes, we have a very pretty gardeny lot. Come on. Sorry. I scoop up on Sundays.
Say what you leave.
All right, number 19. Create pedestrian and bike-friendly routes to create recreational facilities and services throughout the city. Well, I mean, we have that with the new trail, right?
Yeah.
So I'd say,
Ongoing?
well, can we do more? I mean, they're gonna do more to putting stuff to the schools, but it says local conservation groups and ecological, oh, I'm sorry, I'm looking at the wrong one.
It's kind of,
Science services, I think it's done. I'd be willing to go with ongoing, either one, complete or ongoing.
I would say ongoing because,
Yeah, I
I mean, we were talking about like connecting the Manhan and Nonotuck and things like that, so those haven't
There's
happened.
more to do. Okay, ongoing it is. Any more comments about that? Number 20. Create a canoe/kayak trail along the Manhan River to the Oxbow. Oh, that's really neat.
nice dog park down there.
That's brilliant. Okay, I don't think that's been done. I don't know of anyone, I haven't heard of anyone talking about it. I think we can safely say no progress on this. Who would you vet with? People like the
Landowners?
Rod and Gun Club. They're right down there. They have a,
No, I'm talking
they would have a dog in that. The Rod and Guns, that's not shit. I don't know if you know, there's no shooting involved. That's a
Yeah,
fishing
that's a
club.
No, I'm, yeah.
And they're not going to.
But they're not gonna be kayaking and canoeing.
Canoeing.
They're not gonna do,
No.
they're not
It's
gonna
more
Maybe people that have frontage along the Manhan,
Right.
that might be an interesting part, depending on where you're putting kayaks in and taking them out. Some of that is Piscomic land along the way, but it's not easily accessible to the river. It's a pretty steep drop.
So maybe the Piscomic Trust might be a good group to go.
We'll talk to about it, yeah.
All right. Vet Piscomic Trust and no progress.
What exactly is a canoe kayak trail?
Well, I think it's a cut in the waterway, right?
I would think what we need to do is to go through there and take out any like downed
Some
trees and whatnot, so you can actually go through without having to take your canoe out and walk around.
I've been interested.
Portage.
I mean, it's a really great idea.
I mean, a good spot is to start is at the old Waterworks building there on Northampton Street.
Huh.
And, because there is, I think, public access there, right?
Yep. Yeah, but it's a steep drop. I was interested in doing this Manhan River part on a kayak myself, and I think it's true, the big issue was all the down trees and stuff. The pathway is not clear.
Right.
And depending on the water level, which changes depending on the season.
So even if it's not a canal, just clearing for carrying your...
Yeah, I don't think the idea was to make a new canal. It was just to use the Manhan River as the pathway, but the access is probably a big issue, and the clearing of just clearing it, because right now there's tons of trees that have fallen in the way and stuff.
Where do you start? On Northampton Street?
I've done it both ways. I put in at the Oxbow and went up one time, and I put in at the old Waterworks building and tooled around
Where
a
the
little bit.
bridge is?
But I couldn't get very far.
Yeah, I wouldn't,
Because of the trees and things. And the upper side of that, above the dam, is nice too. Again, I didn't get very far, but it has nice potential as a recreational path.
I mean, you might be able to There might be some interest with the Rod and Gun Club folks for clearing if it's also going to be fishable, right? I mean, is this, I don't know how this is decided, but
Comments on it.
I don't know.
We'll look for help wherever we can
Yeah,
find
possibly,
it.
you might get some volunteer help from them, from some of them.
Yeah.
Couple.
All right then, so we said, I think, no progress, vet, Squamic Trust. Number 21, promote educational outreach in cooperation with local conservation groups on the recreational and ecological value of the property targeted for protection for future use for passive recreation. They need more periods than that.
This I would say is ongoing because as they've been coming up with new pieces of property, like Pascomic has really been doing a push with the new property over in your area and Pomeroy Meadow over by me. This is being done.
Okay, so do we want
Ongoing.
Okay. Targeted for protection. I'm comfortable with that. Anyone else? Moving on. 22. Establish citizen bicycling and park use improvement program, which includes request forms. The successful Seattle program is described on page 20 of Improving Conditions for Bicycling and Walking by the Rails to Trails Conservancy and the Association of Pedestrian and Bicycle Professionals. It allows citizens to suggest low-cost improvements to improve safety and access. All right, so Citizens Biking and Park Use Improvement Program. I saw Barbara by the new bagel shop, the old train station there, Tandem, I think. Love that place, and there's a little plug. And she was in the back on the rail trail promoting the cycling, the bicycle committee. They were giving out t-shirts and little tchotchkes and free breakfast to people. It's a great day to show up there randomly. So I know that there's some movement, and they're talking about, how to bike safely. They have little...
That was probably Bike Week.
Bike Week. It was excellent. It was a really neat thing. So I know, there is definitely some education going on. I'm just not sure if, this is very specific.
It is really specific, because once you start getting request forms, who's gonna do
Process
something
them.
about that?
Yeah.
The Friends of the Manhan Rail Trail, well, it says right here.
Well, I guess we need to vet Friends of the Manhan Rail Trail. Sound good?
Yeah, it is so specific.
Well, that might be what that was doing, what you're talking about.
It could be.
Program. Seems like it's accomplished a lot of things.
Okay.
But it's also park use improvement, so
Bicycle Park Use Improvement Program.
park and rec.
Okay.
It's...
All right, well, there we are at 7:30. It's just about time to go, so I'm going to ask for two things. One, would you be willing to shoot me an assessment of just an email that contained the items that you got that said vet? I need to call some people, and I need your list to do it. Second, we have to talk about, are there any reports? Anything anyone wants to talk about?
I'll say real quickly that I did follow up. Remember, I had a teacher who was interested in working historical programs. Started working with a couple of students, so on one singular instance, we made some progress there. I also am hoping to get her in touch with the Historical Society. Presumably know that they're back in operation.
There was an accident, so I know they were on low, kind of running low on manpower for a little while, but I think it's going to start picking up again.
Okay.
I'm excited to hear that's underway.
Yeah, to some degree, it's more on a single case basis, so I guess we need to figure out a way to make that more of an institutional thing, but...
So I recently, did you all see, I think it was in the summit, an announcement of several students, some kind of forum where they were going to actually present things that they had researched on local history.
Oh, I didn't see
Oh,
that.
so
So I
I
think-
think high school students.
Yeah, I
The
think,
the AP high school.
so I feel like there is a teacher
Yeah.
who is
Yeah.
doing local historical curriculum.
Yep.
You need
So
to get in touch with that teacher, huh?
Oh,
I
well,
don't know.
it may be the same.
it could be the
Okay.
same
Could be the
person,
same,
right?
yeah.
I wasn't sure that if it was high school, someone in high school, I just read that and I
Okay.
was
yeah.
Give them
wondering if
what
it was
we
the
can.
same
You know,
person.
maybe the winner of the project gets to spend a day with a mayor or something.
I'll look into it as well and see about who's running that. Because again, it is happening, but I guess it isn't happening in any kind of formal, sustainable way.
Right.
It's just one or maybe
So-
two people that have taken it up.
Is there maybe a call for like getting all the teachers who are teaching history and social sciences and have a meeting and make a proposal, like, let's cover this in the curriculum, what do you think, how can we help?
Well, they don't really
Wouldn't
get
that-
to do too much with their curriculum that they teach daily. It's mandated by
Or
the district.
these special projects.
Just don't
I mean,
forget
isn't that a
freedom.
way to just bring them together and say, do you have interest in somehow getting this ball rolling?
That's a good idea.
I mean, if it's happening piecemeal, why not bring everybody to the table and speed up the process? I don't know, it just seems
To make
rather
sense.
logical to me. There's a lot of resources right here in town, and I don't know.
Well, I'm making a note to get in touch with those faculty people and have a conversation with them about maybe figuring out a way to implement an ongoing.
Yeah, I don't know if it's faculty or if you have to start with principals, but I just feel like, I mean,
They can probably say who it is.
yeah.
And then I'll carry the gauntlet for that.
Well, we best wrap it up. I know you all wanted at the beginning of this discussion to have a conversation about switching to one meeting a year. Was that what I
Yeah.
say that.
Once every 10 years.
That, we will not be implementing anything.
Our next meeting in 2 weeks. Okay. Anyone know what date that is off the top of their head?
We want to talk about once a month though,
Once a
through the
month
summer.
over the
Just-
summer.
Is that what it was?
Yes.
Yes.
So the 27th.
The 27th is 2 weeks, is that? Okay. The 27th of June. That works for me, and then maybe meet, I mean, is it, I know that, say for instance, the EDIC skips August. That's their typical, and they'll often pass on July too. They'll just skip those 2 months, because so many of the business owners that are in those meetings go on vacation. It's just a typical vacation time. My vacations are probably gonna take place in August, and I'm just not gonna be around for much of that month. June is fine with me. July is fine with me. I don't know how you all feel. Where do you all sit on this? You want to skip a month? Is that what?
I was originally advocating for once a month, but since then, there's been that announcement that the Parsons School
Yeah.
is, they're going to be starting discussions about what to do with that because it's surplus property. And that seems like a really concrete thing that maybe we can plan on as a way to think of all the ways that master plan stuff could be fulfilled through that one building. I mean, I'm just saying, almost more meeting than less meeting might be. I mean, it's just such a concrete thing where people are gonna be coming to, and it's gonna require different boards.
Yeah.
So
I
they
wonder how much they're actually gonna do over the summer themselves.
Yeah.
That's true, but
But we might want to.
Preparation doesn't hurt.
Right.
Where do you stand on this?
I like having bi-weekly meetings. I feel like as much as it's tempting to want to, make the meeting less, feel like we've got work to do and our work's cut out for us, and I would just as soon keep at it, keep going, yeah.
How about you?
I'm fine with bi-weekly. In the summer, in July and August, it'll get a little dicey for me because of work-related stuff, but, I'll do my best to come.
Bi-weekly for the most part works. July may get a little dicey.
Okay. Allison?
The summer is easier for me, just with my work schedule. So unlike Erica, it's kind of opposite, but yeah. So
Bi-weekly?
Yeah, I think, yeah.
Doesn't matter.
It seems like we're gonna stay bi-weekly and take it by ear if we just don't have enough people to show up because they're running off. We'll just keep playing it the way we have been playing it. I'll see you in 2 weeks at 6:30 in this room.
If we stick to this same 2 weeks and we don't skip any weeks, I should be able to be here. If we start skipping weeks, it's gonna fall in weeks that I won't be able, so I'll just leave that caveat.
I consider myself
So
boring.
it's like,
All right, do we have a motion to adjourn?
We adjourn.
Is there a second? All in favor? Aye. And if you'd be so kind as to press the little button. Thank you. Sorry.